still living in this drab house. I see. How can you stand it? And do you even clean? The whole place smells. Oh, that must be the pee from the person you're caring for.
The overly arrogant woman with not a trace of empathy raised her voice at me. It was my husband's sister-in-law, Martha. Fine then. With a cat's curse, I'll drag you down into the depths. I am Grace, a 35-year-old care worker. I work full-time at a nursing home, but also go out for home care once a week. My family consists of my husband, our 2 cats, and me. My husband is a high school biology teacher. We adopted our beloved cats from a shelter, and they're now living peacefully with us. We don't have children yet, but I hope to conceive by the time I'm 38. A friend of mine had her egg cells frozen, and I'm considering doing the same. My husband is the younger of 2 brothers, and they don't get along very well. The older brother and his wife, Martha, live about 30 minutes away by car. My brother-in-law is also a teacher, in charge of health and physical education. Their mother was an educator, so it seems natural that her sons followed in her footsteps. Despite this, there is someone in the family who looks down on professions with the title teacher, Martha.
I don't like people in professions with teacher in the title. They can't stand out or dress fashionably.
When my sister-in-law said that to me, I thought, they can dress fashionably outside of work, and your husband is also a teacher. If you don't like it, you should just leave him. But I didn't say it out loud. I lost the energy to argue back and was surprised by her blatant declaration. She works for a major apparel company and is very particular about clothing, mercilessly criticizing anyone she doesn't approve of. Once, when she took me to a stylish cafe in the neighborhood, she looked at people walking by through the window and asked,
"That person's fashion is terrible, don't you think?"
I don't care about other people's clothes. It's probably because of her job that she notices other people's fashion, but she criticizes them loudly without any regard for others. Because of this, I decided to avoid her and always made excuses about being busy with work whenever she invited me out. Why does she keep inviting me? I imagined that, given her personality, she probably didn't have many friends. One day, while I was at work, she called me on my cell phone.
"Grace? My project is going to be featured in a magazine."
She started talking like a machine gun, without considering that I was at work. She really is a self-centered person who doesn't consider others' positions. I thought as I listened to her rapid-fire, one-sided talk.
The work clothes for caregivers are all sweatpants, right? They're too frumpy, so I designed fashionable work clothes for caregivers. Can you try them out at your nursing home?
She thinks we always look frumpy? I disagreed. I don't think fashion is necessary in the caregiving field. Martha, well. She interrupted my protest.
I have stylish work clothes modeled by a model, and I'll send you the pictures. I'll email them to your workplace, so make sure to look at them.
She hung up abruptly. The images she sent were clearly inappropriate for a caregiving setting. I thought I should inform my boss about my sister-in-law's proposal.
It seems like you're troubled. I'll send her a refusal email.
A few days later, I received a protest message from her saying, "I got a rejection email from your boss." Why did that happen? It's common sense that dressing up boosts the morale of workers. Ignorance is so annoying. There it was, her ignorance is so annoying attack. Whether she wins or loses, she always ends the argument with that phrase. I wanted to ignore her, but I replied, "It was my boss's decision, so I apologize." One day, while I was at work, I received a call from my husband.
Sorry to call you at work. Are you available now?
He sounded urgent. Yes, what's wrong?
Mom collapsed and was taken to the labor hospital near your workplace. I'm heading there now, but can you come too?
This was serious. I needed to go immediately. I was highly agitated. Yes, I'll go right away. I hung up and headed straight to the hospital. I arrived first and was guided to my mother-in-law's room. The doctor informed me that she had a stroke and might have residual speech impairments. I was speechless. My mother-in-law, a former elementary school principal, was beloved by both children and teachers. She had retired from her job and was set to start working at the city's Board of Education next year. She was kind to me. Having lost my biological mother when I was young, she was a loving person who reminded me of a mother's warmth.
Grace, thank you for marrying my son. I'm glad to have you as my daughter-in-law.
She had welcomed me with a bright smile like the sun. She was also passionate about volunteer work, sharing vegetables she grew in her home garden with children in care facilities. As I watched her sleeping, I felt tears well up in my eyes. Please, let her regain consciousness safely. Knock, knock. At that moment, I heard a knock on the door, and my husband entered the room.
Sorry for making you leave work.
It's fine. He told me that the doctor would explain the future treatment plan and hospitalization. My husband had left work early and planned to stay at the hospital for a while. Holding back my tears, I headed to the restroom, where I ran into my brother-in-law and Martha. Oh, brother-in-law and Martha.
Grace.
He looked pained, but Martha wore a creepy smile. When I directed them to the mother-in-law's room, she suddenly grabbed my arm. My brother-in-law didn't notice and continued to the room. She whispered in my ear,
Isn't this the end for mother-in-law?
"How inappropriate." I widened my tear-filled eyes and stared at her. I couldn't speak, was overwhelmed with emotion, and almost had a panic attack, collapsing on the spot. She let go of my arm and walked away. As I watched her back, I took a deep breath, trembling with anger and sadness. Worried about my mother-in-law, I left the hospital with a heavy heart, knowing I had to visit a client that day. Even while caring for the client, I couldn't shake off my anger toward my sister-in-law. If I did nothing, I feared losing the chance to stop her from saying and doing whatever she pleased. I couldn't forgive her for smirking at my unconscious mother-in-law. Grace, our store is opening in a nearby shopping mall. Make sure to visit. She sent me information about her company's events without fail, even attaching the website address. Previously, I would have replied, but this time I decided to ignore it. When I continued to ignore her, she started calling frequently. I ignored those too. She then left a voicemail.
Grace? Why aren't you answering your phone? You're ignoring my messages and calls. I'm sending you useful information because you're so clueless about fashion. What's your problem?
I guess she really wants my attention. She must have no friends. Thinking this, I deleted the message immediately. She continued to bombard me with messages and calls daily. I was beyond fed up. It was starting to feel creepy. Amid this, I received news from my husband that my mother-in-law had regained consciousness. However, she still couldn't speak and was in a daze. I was so happy that I cried. Although my worries weren't over, it felt like we had passed the first hurdle. A month later, my mother-in-law was discharged from the hospital. My husband said that depending on her condition, we might need to consider transferring her to a rehabilitation hospital. But as her treatment was effective, she chose to go to a rehab facility from home. He mentioned that she probably wanted to stay in her familiar home, and I agreed. My mother-in-law had bought a 50-year-old single-story house with a yard where she grew vegetables and lived with a cat. During her hospital stay, I went to her house to take care of the cat. Thinking about the future, my husband and I discussed things thoroughly and decided to live with her. We would support her together. On the day of the move, while we were preparing, I received a message from my sister-in-law. I heard you're moving into your mother-in-law's house today. Living together is unthinkable. Her opinion that living together was unthinkable didn't matter to our decision. Annoyed, I left the message unread. I arrived at my mother-in-law's house before the movers. It was a nostalgic home with a vintage atmosphere. There was a garden where she grew vegetables and shared them with me. I remembered her smiling with her cat on her lap, and tears welled up in my eyes again. I wanted my mother-in-law to spend her time comfortably in this warm, sunny house. I opened the front door quietly, and the cat greeted me. "Oh, Mia, hello." I called out to the cat with a big smile and a sweet voice. The cat's name is Mia, a friendly and quiet calico adult cat. Since the day my mother-in-law was hospitalized, I had been refilling the automatic feeder with cat food, changing the water, and cleaning the litter box. From today, I'll be living here too. I have 2 cats of my own. It would be stressful for both of you to be together immediately, so Mia, you stay in your room for a while. As I spoke and scratched her neck, Mia purred contentedly. I couldn't resist the charm of cats. Shortly after, the movers arrived. Moving took the entire day, and we put all our belongings in the back room. While we were tidying up, my husband and mother-in-law returned from the hospital.
We're home,
Said my husband. My mother-in-law, in a wheelchair, smiled gently at me. She had right-side paralysis and speech impairment. It was difficult to understand her when she spoke. "Welcome back, Mom. From now on, we'll be here for you." I knelt in front of her and said this, and she teared up and held my hand. In the evening, the nursing bed arrived, and my husband and I set it up and put her to bed. My husband went to pick up our cats from the pet hotel. I prepared to assist with her toileting. She wore diapers since taking her to the bathroom was difficult. I noticed the smell and realized she had a bowel movement, so I cleaned her while talking to her. Being a care worker, I was used to this kind of care. "Mom, do you feel better? I'll clean this up now." I double-bagged the soiled diaper and left the room. Just then, the doorbell rang. "Yes, I'm coming." After disposing of the diaper and washing my hands, I went to the door and found my sister-in-law.
I came to check on things. I couldn't reach you.
She said with a sarcastic tone. "I don't want to have anything to do with you," I thought but said, "Oh, I've been busy with a lot of things." "I'm surprised you could contact me so frequently despite being busier than me," I replied in a similarly sarcastic tone.
How rude. Taking care of MIL means dealing with her waste all the time, right? It stinks. It's hell every day. You're not going to make me talk at the door, are you? I'm coming in.
She barged into the house. As soon as she entered the living room, she said,
I've been to MIL's house a few times, and it's as plain as ever. Living here is crazy. Are you cleaning properly? It stinks here. Oh, it must be the smell of MIL's waste.
I did change her diaper earlier, so there might still be a smell, but today, I decided to speak up. Martha, I don't want to have anything to do with someone who doesn't understand others' pain. So please don't come here again, I said, glaring at her.
What? Are you serious? After all the affection I've shown you.
What is she talking about? I've never been treated kindly by her. The only person who treated me kindly was Mael. Don't come here again. At that moment, I must have looked like a demon. She flinched for a second and said,
You'll regret this.
She left, uttering a cliched threat like something out of a bad drama. I felt my heart clear up as if a weight had been lifted. A month later, an incident occurred. My sister-in-law suddenly visited our house and barged in uninvited.
Grace, my husband collapsed and is now in the hospital. I know when he'll be discharged, but he needs care. Can you recommend a facility for him? It could even be the home where you work.
Our facility is a skilled nursing facility, and only those who require regular medical supervision and specialized nursing care can be admitted. Typically, most residents are elderly, and your husband isn't that age, is he?
What? Really? I thought anyone needing care could get in. And what is a skilled nursing facility?
Though she knew everything about fashion, she seemed clueless about caregiving. Ah, ignorance is so annoying, isn't it? You've told me the same thing. There's nothing I can do to help you. Please leave. I stood up from the sofa as I said this.
Why? Why won't you help me?
She screamed, clinging to my leg. Hey, let me go. Just then, Mia came to use the open-type litter box in the living room. When Mia covered her business with sand, some of it landed on my sister-in-law's leg.
Eek! It's filthy and smelly!
Mia continued to scratch at the sand with her front paws. Thanks, Mia, you saved me.
What's wrong with this cat?
She screamed, picking up Mia abruptly. In response, Mia sprayed her with urine. Ah, Mia wanted to pee too. Mia meowed, kicked Martha with her back legs, and ran away.
You! It stinks! This skirt is expensive!
With her prized fashion dirted, she scowled. You picked her up suddenly. Think of it as spilled jasmine tea. It won't bother you.
That's nonsense. It reeks.
Cat urine might smell particularly bad, but humans are the same. As I watched her panic, she bumped her foot hard against the corner of a pillar in the living room and crouched down. She hit her pinky toe. That must hurt.
Remember this!
She yelled, struggling to stand while holding up her soiled skirt and repeating her usual line. Just before leaving the living room, she tripped over the threshold and fell again. Things happen in threes, just like the proverb says. It felt as though the house itself was pressuring her to leave. I also realized that the house needed barrier-free renovations to make living here easier. Later, my husband told me that my sister-in-law had broken her toe when she hit the pillar and, during the toileting assistance of her newly discharged husband, had fallen again and broken her arm. Her foot was in a cast, and her arm was now immobilized, leading to a very inconvenient life. Her husband also severely injured his knee in the fall, resulting in a fracture that required surgery, so he was back in the hospital. Frustrated by her husband's inability to immediately enter a facility, she vented her anger at him. Now both of them are hospitalized. How unfortunate. My sister-in-law's long recovery and inability to showcase her fashion sense drove her to a near-crazy state. As for me, I shifted to home care work for 3 months to care for my mother-in-law at home. She attended a rehab-focused day care service 5 days a week. Since this service was affiliated with my workplace, the arrangements were smooth. It became routine to put her in the van each morning and see her off. During the day, I studied to become a care manager. My mother-in-law showed remarkable recovery through her hard work in rehab. From being unable to walk due to hemiplegia, she gradually managed to walk with a cane. I passed the care manager exam and moved from the nursing home to a home care office. This job involved weekday daytime hours, leading to a healthier lifestyle. One day, I found a letter addressed to me on the dining table.
Grace, I can never thank you enough. Truly, thank you. I think of you as my real daughter. Thank you for taking care of me and the cat. Thanks to you, I enjoy going to rehab. I'll try to do more on my own and talk with you again. If living together becomes too difficult, I'll move to a facility. I want you, my son, and the cats to live in this house.
Her handwriting was wobbly, possibly written with her paralyzed right hand or her left hand. The effort she put into writing this letter filled my heart, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Mom, I think of you as my real mother too. I want to continue spending happy times together with you. Thank you and best regards. I wrote a reply on pink stationery. Looking out the window, I saw a beautiful rainbow in the distance. How did you like today's story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.